I kind
And
of like that.
so,
That's a good vibe there.
yeah, we did that. That was a cool little store. It was right, actually fairly close to the pier. And then on the way back down, we went up, we saw the Dawes Glacier and Glacier Bay that they call it, which was kind of both kind of cool and kind of sad at how many of the glaciers had retreated so far up the mountains. And then on the way back, we stopped in Prince Rupert, Canada, which is home to, oh, I'm totally dropping Rob's store name, Good Time Games.
There it is.
Rob Gruber is affectionately known in the industry as the Elf King, and he actually has his own card for Hero Realms that is the Elf King card.
Yes,
And
I think you've talked about him before because he was part of the inspiration for the in-house game at Red Raccoon, right?
he was because he makes up and he runs his own campaigns and has for years. And there's like 9,000 people who live in Prince Rupert, Canada. And Rob is like the entertainment empire up there, which is, he's running across the street from his store is a big open park, and he runs massive swords. He calls it swords. And it's a massive like LARP event for kids where he's got 25 to 30 kids on a side facing off each other with a bunch of foam swords, and they're going at it, and there's rules, and he's the referee. He usually rides his unicorn in the battle. His unicorn, of course, is a hobby horse turned into a unicorn.
Checks out.
And yeah, Rob has been given like the key to the city, and he leads the parades, and Rob's story is crazy and incredible. The port wanted him to be able to offer his swords combat for the kids to people get on cruise ships. So they bought him all new swords and all new tabards for the kids to wear so he could run them whenever a cruise ship pulls into port. It's amazing. It is. He's got a cool little store. It's not huge. I would say it's smaller than our old location. So he's probably got about 2,000 square feet total. We had 2,000 square feet of retail, and then we also had the basement for, call it another 1,200 square feet of basement play space. Rob's got probably 1,500 square feet of retail and then the basement play space. But it's a town of 9,000 people, right? So he does absolutely amazing things. He runs in the woods. He's a very athletic guy. He runs in the woods, and he's been chased by wolves, a pack of wolves through the woods. And we're like, Rob, stop. You're going to be eaten by wolves and nobody knows where you are. It's crazy. But he's just an absolutely amazing guy. So love hanging out with Rob.
Well, speaking of absolutely amazing things, hello everyone and welcome to Red Raccoon Radio, your source for tabletop gaming news in Bloomington, Illinois and beyond. I'm one of your hosts, John Parrott, and with me, as always, freshly returned from vacation, is Jamie Math.
Hello! I would not say from always. I missed last week.
No, Jamie, I meant that because even when you're not here, you're here in heart. And as you know, last week we definitely missed you because we had an awesome podcast with the Evil Hat guys. And I know that one of the things you wanted to talk about today was all the things you wish you could have said to the Evil Hat guys. Was there anything that comes to mind right off the bat that you really were like, oh, I wish I could have jumped into that conversation?
You and Dylan did an amazing job. I listened to the podcast. You guys did absolutely great. They did great. It was a really fun listen. So I really appreciated stepping back and being on the outside and just watching the podcast happen. So that was pretty cool. I think the only real thing that I wanted to add was you were trying to set Dylan up with a softball about the Gen Con special.
I couldn't have lofted it any easier.
And Dylan, he said you caught him off guard, and he said that, well, we give 10% off every day. And he's right. We do give 10% off anything that's not in the store that we special order or pre-order things. However, for at least the last 10 years, we have run the Gen Con special. And the Gen Con special is if you come back from Gen Con and you show us pictures of the amazing things that you saw at Gen Con that you wish to order from the store, we will do 20% off if you show us the picture that you took while you were at Gen Con. And the reason for that is primarily because when I go to Gen Con, I know what looked cool to me. But you've been there, John. You know what a crazy place that is. And there's stuff that even though last year, I spent at least 15 hours in the vendor hall, there were still stuff that I missed completely. And so when customers come back and they show us what they want to order, that's just like market research for me.
Of course.
Yeah, they saw something interesting, and then sometimes I have to go, "Yes, I saw that," but other times I'm like, "I totally missed that. Let me go look up the details and find out what made you so interested in it." So we do 20% off, and this year we're going to do the same thing for Origins. Origins 20% off. Bring us a picture. If I know we have a bunch of folks who are driving to Columbus. Origins starts on Wednesday. Or is it Thursday? I think games start on Wednesday and the vendor hall starts on Thursday because Gen Con's 4 days and Origin is 5 days. So they're going to Origins, and if they come back and they show me pictures, I'll give them 20% off of anything they want to pre-order. And then we may even do the same thing for PAX Unplugged in December, but that's a longer haul away to get to Philadelphia.
That it is.
I
Now,
don't
I
think
will
I've talked to any customers who have gone to PAX Unplugged yet.
Now, I will say, Jamie, normally your plan is, well, at Gen Con, if somebody finds you, they get a gift card.
Yeah.
But you're going to be a little bit more elusive this year because you might only just come for one day, correct?
Yeah, I might just go for Saturday. My friend Tiffany has a big party every year that all the industry folks hang out, and I literally might drive over and just go for Saturday. I don't know yet. It's all up in the air. I may cave and just say the heck with it and just go for all 4 days. I don't know yet.
Well,
But I
if
have
you
no
see,
ticket and I have no hotel room right now.
easy peasy, we can make this happen in an instant. I'm sure there's plenty of listeners that would love to introduce you to their hotel rooms. However, if you do see Jamie at Gen Con, also go up, say hi. And I believe you have to be wearing a Red Raccoon t-shirt. Is that part of the requirements? Yes.
Yeah. That's the same thing too. I did it at Origins last year as well, and I saw people, but when I saw them, they didn't have Red Raccoon shirts on, and when they had their Red Raccoon shirts on, they couldn't find me. So, because when I go to Origins is fun because I actually get to spend a lot of time playing games at Origins, and I got my 50 new games to Jamie challenge, and I'm hoping to put a good dent and knock out like 10 or 12 more games on that list.
Well, Jamie, that's a great way for us to segue because I'd ask you how the store was this week, but honestly, you've been gone. I don't know how you'd
I've been
know
gone.
other than hearing all the clients. So have you gotten to play any games while you were on vacation or previously that you like to bring up?
You know, John, what an excellent question. Thank you. I did get to play some new games because right before we went on the cruise, Basil and I went to ACD Game Days since the last time I was on a podcast. And I got to play some games at ACD that I just had never played before. The first one, and I think a bunch of our listeners have played, have you played Farms Race?
I have not.
So Farms Race is the animals have taken over the farm. And the various species of animals, the sheep, the cows, the pigs, and the horses are fighting for control over the farm. And it very much feels like you're playing Settlers of Catan if we had introduced nuclear weapons to the game. It's a hex board. A lot of it feels like Settlers of Catan. It's more area control. So there is fighting and combat over who gets to control various areas. And then those areas, though, everybody at the beginning of a turn, you're rolling the dice to see which hexes pay resources out the same way that Catan does. So it's Catan with nuclear weapons and area control fighting. So that was cool. And it's been out for we've had it for maybe almost 18 months, going on 2 years now. And I just never played it. Grant loves it. He always talks about it to people. And I had just never got a chance to it. So it was a new for me game. And I also got to play a new release that's on its way to the store from Smirk and Dagger called Blorp. Have you seen Blorp?
I've not heard about Blorp.
Blorp. Blorp is a tile placement game. And you are building blorps. So it's a little bit like a Carcassonne style game where you have to make the tiles match and the various shapes and pieces of the blorp have to work together. And blorp are these amoeba style blobs that you're building. And at the end of the game, you get points for having the most blorp of your color. Who had the most yellow blorps? Who had the most red? Who had the most of the green? You also see, if you want to go back one picture there, one more, that one, you also see in that picture, and people at home can't see this, the art style on these tiles is very Dr. Seuss inspired to me. And you can see there's such a thing as a blorpophone. And a blorpophone looks kind of like a Dr. Seuss megaphone with this crazy squirrel horns as well. But a blorpophone, if you get two parts of it that face each other, it can be used to extend colors across from one blorp to the next blorp. So you could go out of a yellow blorp into a red blorp, out of the other side of the red blorp and back into a yellow blorp. And that yellow blorp now technically counts as one giant blorp because you have connected them with blorpophones.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was quick. It was simple. Maybe call it 30 minutes to play a whole game. And we had a good time with it.
It does look Dr. Seussian, but at the same time, if Dr. Seussian was having a fever dream at the same time he was trying to illustrate, that I want to be clear with people before they just go out and buy this game. There is something manic in these creations that I just want to be very.
There's also some of them that are a little bit disturbing because there's some random like eyes and teeth in some of them that are they made me not. They gave me not pleasant vibes on a couple of the artwork styles as well.
So many orifices, Jamie. You've introduced me to so many orifices with this game. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and then the last one I got a chance to play that I thought was really worth talking about, Flip 7 with a Vengeance. Okay. So regular Flip 7, super easy to play. It's a press your luck. It's kind of like playing press your luck blackjack. The deck consists of 12 12s, 11 11s, 10 10s, and so the deal is it's dealt out similar to blackjack, but if you ever get the same number twice, you bust. So if I got a 12 out there, I get another 12, I bust it out. The goal is to push your luck to score as many points as possible and stay before you bust out. It's flipped 7 because if you manage to hit the seventh card then it stops the round automatically and you score 15 bonus points. But statistically, you're going to bust out before that. Yes. But John, what if you wanted to screw with your friends?
That's what I love to do, Jamie.
Yeah, well, and that's where Flip 7 with the Vengeance comes in, because Flip 7 with the Vengeance introduces a bunch of cards to mess with your friends. You can either give them negative cards, you can pass them a card that takes whatever their final total is and divides it by 2 or 3. You can pass them a card and steal something from them and pull it over to your side. So there's different ways that you can mess with your friends in it, and it really takes Flip 7, which is kind of almost a little bit of an innocent game where each person's just doing their own thing for the most part, and it really kind of turns it into a kind of a take that game. And again, we had a ton of fun with it. It to the point where, so Nick from the the op, I think they prefer to call it the op now, which I'm still going to continue to make fun of them for. But Nick from the op is a friend of mine, and he's like, hey man, you guys know the rules here. I'm going to go get a beer. And so he went to get a beer and other people wandered up to the table. But before he got back, I had taught like 5 new rounds of people how to play the game, which is the same thing that happened last year when I took over the ops table and I just was running all the demos of their games last year too. Coincidentally, here's a fun story from last year, right? Last year at ACD Game Days, I'm talking to Nick and Kyle, who are they call it the hobby channel partners. So they interface with stores like Red Raccoon. And I said, okay, Flip 7 is amazing. However, we need to do more. And I'm like, we need to introduce the number 13 and it's got to have some crazy effect. And we need an unlucky number 7. And we need to do more things to screw with our friends and everything on their game. And I'm just rattling off all these ideas, like brain dumping on them of all these things I'm coming up with. And Kyle looks at Nick and says, what the hell have you been telling him? And Nick said, I didn't tell him anything. This is the first time hearing him talk about it. And you want to guess what's already in the game, because they already had it all planned. They have the number 13 card. They have the unlucky number 7, and they had a whole bunch of new ways to screw with their friends. So good ideas are universal, John.
That's what I'm hearing. And finding ways to screw your friends is really what's going to give you that ability to go above and beyond, I think, is what I'm hearing. Whenever you're in board game development, think about screwing your friends over.
I know, right? Okay, now, one more game I want to talk about, and I did not get a chance to play it, and I was so sad, but I couldn't get near the table. But you know that I'm going to be excited about it, John.
Tell me.
Because it's called Thunder Road Ignition, and it is Thunder Road Vendetta. It is a standalone game. However, the tiles in this game work retroactively with Thunder Road Vendetta. So Thunder Road Ignition tiles work with Thunder Road Vendetta, and it introduced curved road pieces, John. So what our listeners can do I already have 4 packs of this on order for myself because FlatCon's coming, John,
That
and
it
it's
is.
play a crazy version of Thunder Road, and with curved pieces, we can do laps now. We're bringing NASCAR to Thunder Road Vendetta. We're doing laps. We're doing curves. We're coming back around to things that we thought we had blown up before. And I started telling the guys from Restoration Games, and they're like, you have got to send us pictures. So yeah, so for anybody who's heard, I know that Steve always listens to us and comments in the Discord, but you guys just wait till you see the kind of nonsense that we're going to get up to. Expect it at FlatCon this year.
And look,
Speaking of FlatCon, one more thing, we're also building a new giant game to bring to FlatCon this year.
as you should. I have been telling people that this is becoming a staple of FlatCon, and I think it's a great trend to go ahead and keep with.
But did you see that card that was back there a couple slides ago? It's landmines.
Yes. I was just about to say, it looks like we're getting a little bit more than what we did before. In the sense we got landmines, but we're also getting new player card decks too, or player.
I think those are because this is a standalone game. I think those are mostly the same as the ones that are already in Thunder Road Vendetta.
Gotcha.
This is supposed to be a new, lower price, easier to get into and easier to teach version of the game.
That makes sense. Okay.
And I am now ready to take the same game and turn it into something completely ridiculous.
What Jamie does best.
Yeah. So I'm super looking forward to that. We'll talk more later about other games, but there were so many other really cool games that we have never had at the store that were at ACD Game Days that we're bringing in, and it's going to be fabulous.
That's amazing. Now, Jamie, there is one game that you played with me that we have not gotten to talk about. I've actually got to play it a few more times since we played, and that's Ruins. So
we have it on order. I as soon as we finished playing it, I messaged Ryan that we needed to get it brought into the store.
Excellent. That is great to hear.
It should be here sometime this week.
Ruins has been a game where I have had so much fun not knowing what to do. Because every time I play, the strategy has to change so drastically. So the way that this game works, first of all, I didn't even realize this until I looked this up right now to show this off, but this was designed by John D. Clare, who did Mystic Vale, Ready, Set, Bet, and Space Base, is who developed this game.
Well, the Mystic Vale 100% makes sense with this, because of the card building aspect of this.
Absolutely.
And you know I love me some Space Base, John.
You adore Space Base, Jamie, which makes a lot of sense that a lot of that is really resonating with you. Because not only do we have these clear cards that are being used in order to modify your hand, but there's this beautiful simplicity to how you play, but it somehow becomes deeply complex at the same time.
And it plays a lot like, it really reminded me at the beginning of how Scout plays.
Yes. There is a buildup for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that you play the game is basically you're playing rounds of, I don't even know what card game to really call it. Somebody puts down the saying like, I have 2 3s. And then the next person has to put down the same amount of cards, but a higher number value. And so
that's where it differs from Scout right there, because if you played 2 3s, I could play 3 2s and beat that. But you can't do that in Ruins.
No, you have to have the exact same amount of cards, just a higher value.
And that's a whole new strategy to the game right there.
What adds even another level of strategy to that is that if you don't have the cards, you can buy and modify the cards you have in order to reach that. So there is a market. You have a way of buying games using your campfire tokens. And so you are building out these whole entire cards that are being flipped, that are being added to, and you're basically trying to play Uno. You're trying to get your hand to empty out, because first one who does gets the most points. Last person who empties their hands actually goes back. They lose points. But the whole entire idea of the game is it's not going to take you too long. You're building out your hands, and you can even claim 2 cards to always be yours. But the other cards that you're created and modified at the end of each round will get redistributed to all the other players. So therefore, they are already in the mix, and whatever was good for you in that moment may end up helping somebody else in the future.
And that totally happened to you. You built a couple of really good cards that I got to play later in the game.
Absolutely. And I was very frustrated by this. However, I've been able to play this with a lot of more analytical thinking people. And usually what I find is when I have analytical board game players, they are looking for something deeply complex. They want something with a lot of rules. They want something with the ability to really challenge themselves mentally. This is one of the few small box games that I've found to be able to put on a table and still confound those types of players. So
Wait a
if
minute,
you
did
are the
I
type,
just get insulted in the middle of all that?
I brought it to you.
Well, you said, but you got the chance to play the game with analytical thinkers. Doesn't that mean that I am not?
Did I get to play it with you, Jamie?
Yeah.
Then wouldn't you be one of the people that is an analytical thinker then?
All right. I'm gonna let you slide. I think you slipped there for a minute. Well, we're gonna wait to see what they say in Discord. We're gonna see what they say, John.
I they will, as always, our audience will be the judge, jury, and hopefully not executioner, but we'll find out how this works. If this is how I get canceled, it's going to be a very unique thing to put on my resume. But honestly, fantastic game. Absolutely love playing it. Highly suggest it. Glad that it's going to get some time at the store.
Yeah, it's Ryan ordered it. It should be there this week. All Play makes those little box, what are those 4 inches by 4 inch box games? There's so many
Yep.
good games that are out of that series. That's where Sail came from. That's where Top comes from. That's where Mountain Goats is. And there's just so many games in there. And we sat down thinking, well, this is going to be a quick play. And then about 30 minutes in, you and Derek and I were all scratching our heads like, this was not what I thought we were signing up for at all. This is
Exactly.
But Derek was talking to me about it, that he can't wait for it to come in because he wants to play a game too.
Fantastic. And I will also say that it's something that definitely has huge replay value. It doesn't sound like it because it doesn't sound like there's a lot of modifications, but every time that I've gotten to play it, I've gone in with 3 new strategies and I have to redevelop them in the middle of gameplay at the same time. So there's no trick. Like, you really are having to make changes on the fly, and that's really awesome to see.
Yeah,
But
I think that every time, because it's a card builder, and every time you play, you could build that card a completely different way, then I think, man, the possibilities of what you could do in that game are kind of crazy.
exactly. The things that you can set up are, I'm just going to let our fans hopefully be able to pick up on that. Now,
And
speaking,
and I'm gonna add to it too that I really like Scout, but Scout is not good at 2 players. And I think that Scout is 3 is the bare minimum, but I don't necessarily know I want to play it very often unless it's 4 or 5 players. And Ruins, I think it'd be a perfectly fine 2-player game.
100%. I think it would even be more interesting because the ability to learn your cards would increase in that capability because
Yeah.
you only have a set amount. So you kind of have a better understanding of what you might be able to expect. I'm going to have to try that out.
Okay.
But speaking of cards, Jamie,
Okay.
we got some news stories today. And the first one that we're going to is someone that's near and dear to your heart, the Pokemon Company. So while we might love card games and you are going to really enjoyed Ruin so much you're ready to sell it, Pokemon Company isn't necessarily all about people wanting to sell their cards. This article is coming from a comic book, so just comicbook.com? Yes, by Enrique Perez. Pokemon Company International bans the sale of graded cards. The Pokemon Company International has banned the sale of graded cards. It's certainly quite a splash declaration, but what did TPCI announce, and how will this affect future events? Starting in the
John, I want to break in here, and I just want to say, only at Pokemon regional and international events, the big ones that people go to. For instance, in our area here, there's a big regional event that happens in Peoria almost every year. And the vendors at those events will be banned from selling Pokemon slabs, is what people call them. Graded cards from PSA or Beckett or CGC. The current thing to do that everybody is trying to do, and we see this every day at the store, is they come in, they want to evaluate the cards that we have available in the case for centering, for print quality, for everything front and back, because they want to send it in to get graded. They pay PSA. PSA tends to be the one that most of the people are using for Pokemon cards, and then it gets sealed forever in an acrylic case, right? Historically, this has only been done for sports cards.
Right.
So, but now they're doing it to Pokemon cards, and then the goal, of course, is to take that card and flip it on some platform, on somewhere
Hopefully,
else.
some Paul kid will buy it and put it on a necklace blinged out in gold. That's the dream.
And what Pokemon, I think, is really where they're coming from on this one is they're banning the sale of these at their big events because those cards never come back out of the slabs.
It's true.
They want this is supposed to be a game. and they want the cards available to play in the game. But as all these cards are being put in slabs, they're never coming back out and never getting played with again. And what that's doing is it's constraining the demand on the market, or it's constraining the supply in the market while the demand's still there. So the price of the cards to play the game is gone nuts as well.
Exactly. And in the article, they even state that some of the decision making is a little bit more so that we get back to what the main focus of some of these events really are, which is not the buying and selling of cards, but more the competitive element. From the article, with a greater focus on competitive play, these events will help to create a different atmosphere. We've seen the negative effects that special promos have on events, with speculative investors flooding museums and preventing kids from enjoying the event to its fullest extent. And honestly, I kind of understand that.
Do you know what that one's from? They did, God, this is 3 years ago now. I think we might have talked about it. They did a special Pikachu Van Gogh inspired card to sell at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. And it was supposed to be to encourage kids to go to the museum. And instead, it got overrun by Pokemon investors who wanted to buy up everything, and people who kept going over and over and over again to buy out all the cards. So very few of them landed in the hands of children.
And that breaks my heart because really, this is a good game. And it's a great way to teach kids about a lot of fundamentals of game playing,
And
but
math.
and math, especially. But at the same time, it is being dominated sometimes by people with different motives and with ideas of that this is their job and not a hobby or not a game to play. And I think that, well, hey, I'm not going to yuck anyone's yum. If you like that chase, if you like the hunt, if you like collecting those cards, it's Pokemon. Collecting is supposed to be a part of it. But when we are starting to see that it's the one image that always pops in my mind when we talk about Pokemon cards was the day that I think Target stores or something like that had a Pokemon vending machine, and it was supposed to be filled with all these cards. People could go and buy directly from the source. And before Target was open, one of the workers at Target, in front of all these people that were lined up for the inaugural event, went in and before the stores open, bought everything out of that Pokemon vending machine and left
So
nothing for the people there.
it's worse than that, because now with those vending machines in some of the Targets, there have been multiple fistfights. There
Yep.
have been pushing and shoving matches. The police have been called multiple times because, unfortunately, the people who want to be these investors, one side says it's investing, the other side says it's scalping. Those people are some of the worst behaved people, right? And so one of the things that we started doing last year in order to curb some of that behavior is when a new Pokemon set comes out, we offer two prices. If you want it sealed, the price on the Pokemon product is going to be close to whatever the market rate is on TCG Player or Facebook, right? Or eBay. If you are okay with us opening every package and snipping the corners off of every pack that's in an ETB or a box or whatever, which takes us additional time, then we're selling those ones as close to MSRP as we can get to. I mean, it's not perfect because the pricing we're getting charged by distributors to us is not always great. So we're buying whatever we can from wherever we can, but we're keeping it as close to MSRP as possible. And our local player base has absolutely loved this program because they were going to open the cards anyway to get the cards they wanted to collect and or the cards that they want to play with. They're
Right.
loving it. And we got the idea from another store in Rhode Island who said this is what they're doing. And I'm like, that's a great idea. We're doing that from now on. So our customer base is loving it. And Target just started doing the same thing.
Good.
So if you go to Target and you buy an ETB, an Elite Trainer bundle box, they're now cutting the plastic off of those boxes to make it so that you can't just flip it and sell it online. Because a lot of people won't buy the boxes if they're open. And Target I think, is finally saying enough is enough. Your bad behavior is no longer going to be rewarded.
Good.
Yeah.
And hopefully the other thing that will help with this is, while it won't remove fake cards from the ecosystem, the fact that there's not going to be kids coming to this event being basically swindled or, having that opportunity to lose out on that experience. It can just be a magical time where they get to play and meet new people and have fun with the game that they're learning. I think that's really great. 'Cause You've told me so many times the horror stories of kids that come in thinking that they have something really special only for you to have to really just be
Dream
honest with
Crush?
them. Yeah, and I hate that for you. And it's definitely
Yeah.
not the purview that I think that Red Raccoon really stands for.
We do really trying to celebrate the kids though who have the real cards. We really
Uh-huh.
try to celebrate that part too, and it hopefully offsets a little bit of the negative of when they found out that they traded a perfectly good card away for a counterfeit card. So it's interesting. Now, one more thing. I'm going to segue off in two different stories that I didn't send you real quick. Okay.
How dare you?
One is,
What is
and
this
this one cracked
podcast
me up,
anymore? Am I even needed here?
John. Ace True Value hardware stores now have dedicated Pokemon sections,
No, they don't,
and
Jamie. That's a lie.
included a graded card wall. They have a graded card wall in some of these locations now. So that's story number one, and it cracks me up, right? That Ace True Value hardware now has a graded card wall in some, not all of them, I think, because they're all franchises. They don't all have to do it, but a lot of them are doing it now.
This is
So that's,
insane. I am bringing up the Ace Hardware website as we speak.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's article number one. That's interesting as well. And then the other one is PSA, who is the grader of these slabs, is currently under a whole lot of hot water right now for two different reasons. One is there's some possible antitrust movements against them because the company that owns PSA is trying to merge or already has merged with the company that owns Beckett. And that will mean that they control something like 90+% of the graded cards market if those two manage to successfully merge. Or maybe it's the company that owns Beckett is buying PSA. It's one of those directions, right? And so there's a bunch of outrage over that, saying that they're price conspiracy type things there. The second one is PSA has long had a value submission program where you can say, I don't care how long it takes it back, just take these cards and grade it and send them back to me when you're done. Their backlog is now so big that they have canceled the value submission program. And so
Oof.
it now costs more to get any Pokemon card graded.
Oh,
People are pissed.
yeah, understandably so.
Yeah.
But this
Who
is
knew
the
Pokemon was going to be this crazy?
yeah, this is a fever that is somewhat explainable because Pokemon really hit just the perfect time for kind of a digital revolution of not only video gaming, but the element of keeping. I remember getting Pokemon Blue for the first time, Jamie. It was incredible. It was a game where I got to find the cutest monsters and actually invest in them. It was something I had never seen before. And to see what it has become brings me so much hope, but then also so much sadness at the same.
Well, and I have often told people too that Pokemon, if you really step back and analyze them, I think you could write your doctoral paper on this and get your doctorate this way from a marketing
Yeah.
perspective. Because the video games and the movies are always tied together. And introduction of new characters is in the movie and the video game usually at the same time. Then the card sets are tied to that as well. So the cards, those characters will show up right after that, after they go find a new region to fight. And each DLC for the video game corresponds to the name of the introduction of those new characters, designs, or regions in the card game as well. So now we got video games, card games, movies. Oh, wait, we should have a TV show. Oh, we do have a TV show that also reinforces everything. And for those other things, you know what we need, John? We need a good app. We should have an app for that. Oh, we have two apps now. We have Pokemon Go and we have Pokemon Sleep. In case you need to have some help sleeping, you can sleep with your favorite Pokemon. And guess where all the new Pokemon show up? In both of those as well. Everything the Pokemon company does is self-referential to something else in the Pokemon ecosystem, to the point where I think even Apple is taking notes.
They must, because speaking of the video games, we're not even only talking about the mainstream ones. Some of the best, like, innovative games that we have seen or just off the wall things have come from the Pokemon company. We have Pokemon Snap, which you don't even collect Pokemon. You just go around and take pictures. Originally, it was supposed to be a game just about taking pictures of everyday wildlife. And the Pokemon company came in and said, hey, we got an idea for this. And it sold like gangbusters. We have a sequel. There's been games like Magikarp Jump, which was literally just a game where you train your Magikarp to jump higher. That was the whole entire, and it's been money making. It has been influential. We have a full-fledged movie with Ryan Reynolds as the voice of Pikachu. It's insane what we have reached with this.
Don't forget Psyduck's in that one, though.
That is true. Psyduck. However, as much as Pokemon is now having to be reactive to all the things that are going on inside the industry, Bandai is beginning to become proactive before some things are happening. That brings us to our next article. This is coming from Spiky Bits. Bandai copies GW, Games Workshop, kills off the Gundam Assemble 3D printing miniature market before it even begins. Bandai's new Gundam Assemble 3D printing miniatures policy takes a page from Games Workshop and bans scans, recasts, derivative kits, and proxies at official events before the game even launches. If you're planning on printing proxies for Gundam Assemble, Bandai just slammed the door shut 5 months before the game even hits the shelves.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Well, no, I was just going to say that, Gundam Assemble doesn't come out till this October, and we've got a bunch of it on pre-order. We have not the slightest clue how much is going to actually arrive at the store, but the first taste that you could get of just the models, no rules whatsoever, was when the Gundam card game released last year. You could buy, there were some boxes, the starter boxes only had the decks of cards in it, and some of the boxes were called Gundam TCG Assemble. And those ones came with 2 of the Gundam miniatures in that box as well.
And it'd be crazy for somebody to have actually just bought all of that for a game that doesn't even have the rules out yet, right?
I mean, there were people who did it, John.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Have you even played the card game?
Once, with some friends.
But a lot of people did because they were so excited because of, the Gundam movies and the model kits that we build and stuff like that, they were super excited about, we finally get to play a game with the stuff from this. And they put out, here's a model, but we're not going to tell you what the rules are. And we still don't really know what the rules are. We signed up for a beta kit hoping that we could get a beta kit for this and help teach some people early. And we don't know if we're going to get that beta kit or not. But they are already, the 3D printing thing is going to be an issue for the entire industry coming forward, right? It's getting easier to do. It's still kind of a hobbyist thing because it still takes a lot more hours than most people are willing to put into it, but it's getting easier to do. And where we are right now compared to when I bought a resin printer 5 years ago to test it out. 5 years ago, I screwed around with the resin printer for 3-4 months and said, this is not worth the time and effort because only 1 out of every 10 prints I'm doing was turning out correctly. And now people are consistently getting like 5 out of 5 when they print a batch of things
100%.
On a pretty regular basis, And so this is something the industry has to grapple with, and GW is right in the crosshairs because 40K, people have for years and years and years used modeling clays like green stuff, brown stuff, pick your color stuff to sculpt and make their own customized 40K things. And that's where the name Bits comes from, and Spiky Bits, right? Bits were, after you built your models, there were options in the box of other things you could have chosen to put on them. And everybody had a bits box of pieces that they never used. And people used to trade bits with each other. Well, now you just 3D sculpt a model that you want to use, and then you just print it. And GW is saying, nay, because this is our intellectual property and you can't just copy our models. And some of the people have been, some of the people has been straight up copyright abuse. It is undoubtedly. Other times, GW has maybe overstepped, but people are, even when people create custom models that are not official GW owned designs, they want to play it in GW's games and GW's rule sets. And that's what Gundam is trying to snip in the bud right now, even though there is not enough of the Gundam models to go around by any measure.
Right.
If I could get 100 of those boxes, they would be gone by the weekend, right? But I can't get 100 anyway, so it doesn't matter. And GW can only enforce the rules really solidly in any official event. We had to, as a game store, sign a document that said we would not allow 3D printed models in any official Games Workshop tournament. And so we have to do that as partners in order to be able to sell Games Workshop.
Exactly.
And a lot of folks there's definitely folks out there that are saying, they're too expensive. We don't want to pay for these models, so we're going to 3D print our own. Cool. But if too many people do that, just like the counterfeits that we see from Magic and Pokemon, if it goes too far, the entire system will collapse and then there will not be a game that they love to play anymore. And so it's like this give and take of how do we land at a place where, people can find that balance and stores can find that balance and GW and Gundam and Bandai can find that balance of, they still have employees that they got to get paid. But if they're not
100%.
selling a product, people start getting laid off and people start getting laid off. It delays new product releases and it creates a vicious cycle. And at some point, we're all going to have to come to um, an understanding on this.
I think that the missing plan that GW should have thought is they thought for some reason that they could create a wall and that they could somehow defend themselves against the 3D printing wave. And the fact is, you're absolutely right in the fact that people are getting 5 out of 5 prints. Like it's a hobby where you can refine, get better. I have learned skills like Blender so that I could 3D print things better. And so people are just gaining more skills in trying to subvert the rules that they are putting down. And I think that we are also seeing the opposite side of things happen as well, because we've talked some on this podcast about Trench Crusade, which as it's been coming out has been somewhat accepting of 3D prints and modes because they haven't had a actual item to sell until lately. But they wanted to get the biz up. They wanted to get the word on the street. And so honestly, what I think that every industry needs to do is instead of trying to say, we're going to protect our property by X, they should have said, you want the STL models? We have excellent designers that are creating these. Here is the STL model that you can print at your home. You buy it from us. Now, it's going to be more expensive than the actual just model that you can buy because, we put a lot of work into this, but you can buy it. You can modify it however you want if you want to learn these skills. But it's really at a discount if you just buy the models themselves. And they could have gotten a little bit more of that cut from the STLs if instead of having to encourage people to find ways around to create maybe a step up that people have to do in order to get there. But embracing that, I think, would have been a much better option for them in this case. And I think that in the long run, they're not going to win this
Let me
fight.
give you a different spin because I don't think GW is ever going to do that.
No, of course
They will shut the company down before they do that, right?
Agreed.
I think, and what I have suggested to them is that they need to create an official partner program where I can print the models that customers need. So it's some sort of a printer that is in hobby stores and it's a kit that I buy or some sort of a thing that I buy. And then when a customer comes in, they say, I need a unit of Space Marine Terminator Squad, right? And I say, cool, that kit costs blah, right? Whatever blah is. And that blah price is cheaper. And I'm going to bring it all the way around on why it's cheaper in a second. But then I go to a partner website, I type it in, I get a code, I take that code, I put it into this printer or I send it to the printer over the wireless, whatever. And then it prints off one Terminator Squad. And the reason why it's cheaper is because most of Games Workshop stuff is either made in the UK, in Germany, or China. None of it's made in the United States. So some of their highest costs are shipping boxes, which is probably 50% or more of air, shipping those boxes all over the world. And hey, now we don't even need boxes. Why do we even need a box, right? So now we don't have a box. Now we don't have the shipping cost that goes with it. So they just make their money off making awesome designs and awesome rule sets. I make a margin for buying the licensed things and then printing them and saying, John, here are your models. And if the print doesn't work, there's some factor to say, hey, John's Terminator Squad kit was supposed to have 7 models and one of them didn't work. I got to reprint that one, right? And so that's a thing that's got to be worked out. But I feel like Games Workshop can still have control over their intellectual property and design, because as soon as they sell you a single kit for an STL, they have now lost there's no way to DRM STLs right now. So they have lost all control at whatsoever. And I think that's where they will balk and say, no way in hell.
I agree. But
You know, the
this
other
really
company
hits.
that's really getting their butts kicked on this 3D printing thing right now is WizKids.
Yes,
You know, I
because
can't tell you how many campaigns that have been out there, for making your own fantasy villains, monsters, heroes, everything else. Or even if you go to Hero Forge and just buy one fancy version of your character, that's and oh, by the way, I can buy the STL. But WizKids, you've seen WizKids moving more. They're releasing more and more board games. They're becoming more and more of a board game company versus a miniatures company.
because they're realizing the writing on the wall. And again, this is something that we've talked multiple times on this podcast. And one of the reasons why we do this podcast is because we want people to see that local game stores could be a place that these companies could work with more directly, have more influence, have a better relationship. But they keep on thinking that they can skip over the game store, and it just is not going to produce for you the type of loyal commitment that you're looking for and the buy-in that you're looking for. And
Well, and
it's
to throw back to last podcast that I was not on, it's almost like there should be a program like Bits and Mortar, which
yes,
gives free PDF versions of indie RPGs to the customer. It's almost like there should be some way to do that with Paizo and with Wizards of the Coast for Pathfinder and for Dungeons and Dragons,
well,
or
Jamie, it's
for any of the other big companies that don't do it right now.
it's interesting that you brought up Paizo because they might be looking for some new ways to make some money of their own.
Yeah,
This
this is a sad
article,
one.
yeah, this article comes from IVC2, and we hate to have to share the bad news, but if it's important to the industry, it's important to you, we want to share it. As much as this screenshot is very much K-pop Demon Hunters focused, it's actually an article by Jeffrey Dom Sanchez. Paizo reports almost $2 million loss in 2025 due to the Diamond Bankruptcy. Paizo Inc. revealed that they've
How
lost.
many times do you think we've talked about the Diamond Bankruptcy in this podcast, John?
It's almost up there as many times as we've had to talk about the Wizards of the Coast doing something silly as well, Jamie.
Yeah.
Paizo Incorporated revealed that they almost lost $2 million in losses in 2025, forcing the company to undergo restructuring of 2026, including layoffs of dozen employees. Jim Butler, CEO of Paizo, explained that the company's situation in a blog post on June 8, 2026. The main contributor to the Paizo losses was the collapse and bankruptcy filing of Diamond Comic Distributors, which distributed Paizo's titles to the book channel through their Diamond Book Distributors division. As a result, Pathfinder and Starfighter titles were not distributed to the book trade, including Amazon, an important channel.
Yeah. I
Paizo
think that
was
there's a couple of major points in this article, what's going on here, right? There's one, we talked ad nauseum about how the bankruptcy courts, how the creditors are trying to claim all the consignment games that are sitting in warehouses. And Paizo was probably one of the biggest losers there, with almost $500,000 of their books sitting there. Okay, so we had that part. We talked about also that Bandai and Green Ronin and a lot of these other companies are all in that same boat. And Gamma actually stepped in to file briefs on behalf of our Gamma members. But then when the bankruptcy went from Chapter 11 restructuring to Chapter 7 liquidation, everything went to a new magistrate who's in charge of the liquidation. And that magistrate has been far more in favor of paying out the creditors. And the creditors are making so at this point, Gamma's lawsuit, or not lawsuit, but our filings and briefings are not really having we made initial success. We gave our members time to get in and make and fill out all the paperwork and do all the filings that they were supposed to do in order to try to recover their goods. Some of them got some of their stuff back, but most of them did not get stuff back because it turns out that the creditors have far more and far more expensive lawyers, and they're slowly winning this battle. But this is the first time in an article that when Paizo made this announcement that we heard that it's not only the product that's stuck in the warehouse, but also the fact that Diamond had the exclusive rights to fulfill for places like Barnes and Noble. right? And a lot of those big mass market chains. And they initially won a lawsuit to get that contract canceled, saying that since Diamond is no longer going to be fulfilling those, we should get to fulfill them ourselves. And that the creditors overturned that and got that struck down by an appeals court to say that takes away from the value of the books that we have in the warehouse, that we have this contract, and that's why we've been funding the bankruptcy. And so Paizo has been completely stuck. Now, they're still selling through hobby stores and stuff like that, but they couldn't sell to 500 Barnes and Nobles that are across the United States. I mean, that's a lot of books, right? Even
The
if they
Amazon alone, yeah.
yeah, even if they bought one copy, each Barnes and Noble bought one copy of the core rule book each, that's more than I sold in a year. We sell, it's 2 or 3 or 4 copies of Pathfinder every month, not 500. So,
Right.
I mean, the implications and the repercussions of all this just keep going as this lawsuit. And unfortunately, Gamma has had to admit that we can't do anything else. Our lawyers are like, we're stuck. There's nothing we can do. So our publisher partners a lot of them are just completely continuing to get screwed over this whole thing.
Sadly, this is probably not going to still be the last article that we see of the Diamond drama.
No, and I'm really concerned for, Bandai is an absolutely enormous company. They're a global monster of a company. We just don't see them a lot in the United States. I think Bandai is going to be fine, but a lot of places like Paizo, like Green Ronin, like Goodman Games, a lot of those folks are hurting right now.
Well, we will continue to monitor this situation, as we do with any time that we see some weird shenanigans going on where people are possibly being hurt. And that leads us to our last article for the day, which sadly is another sad one. This one, though, involves a little bit more of a crazier story than even the Diamond distributor bankruptcy. So this is coming from Unlaid Text by Tom Chapman. CoffeeZilla claims Reckless Bin Lego victim is being sued for $1.3 million over missing collection. Now, Jamie, you're going to have to help me parse out some of the information that I've been hearing about this article because it has been all over the place. Fill it out for me.
Okay, here's where we go. So a gentleman by the name of Brian, I think it was Manzel, something similar to that, right? His father has assembled what the claim was. It was the largest Lego Star Wars collection in the world. The initial claim said valued at $200,000. So largest collection in the world. His father has assembled this over a long period of time, making this happen. Father gets sick, got hospital bills to pay. Son brings all of this collection to an Oregon-based bricks and minifigs franchise location. Signs a deal with the owner of the franchise. Her name is Crystal, that she is going to help him sell all this stuff on consignment. Okay. That part all works great. There is celebrations. There's news coverage over it. The largest Star Wars collection ever is for sale. The Bricks and Minifigs corporate offices has talked about it and done posts about it. And all these things have happened to celebrate the sale of this collection as it's going forward. Okay.
It's somewhat exciting news because it releases some collector's pieces back out into the wild for people, things that people may have been hunting for quite some time.
Yeah. And it seems ridiculous, the pricing, but like Grant sold a single Boba Fett minifig, that the very first one, the original one printed, and Grant sold just that one minifig for $1,200, right? So some of these things, like Pokemon Magic and every other collectible thing, are so limited and so collectible that people will pay a lot of money to get the things that they want, right? We don't yuck anybody's yum. We just say people will pay the money for the things that they want, right? Superman issue #1 went for $10 million. So there are people out there that have money that will pay what they want for the things that they want. Okay. The next part of the saga is that Crystal's husband, who is the silent partner of the Bricks and Minifigs franchise location, he is an author and he's an author who writes political books and has written numerous books that are starting to get unwanted attention to the part where they think that maybe they need to move out of the country for their own safety in this current political environment. So They call and tell Bricks and Minifig that they are, hey, we're going to do this and we would like to put our location up for sale. Okay. Now, this is where stories start to diverge in a major, crazy way. Okay. One side of the story from the Bricks and Minifigs corporate office says that Crystal is far behind on her payments to both the franchise. They've been getting reports that she hasn't been paying her rent, and the Bricks and Minifigs corporate is somehow tied into that. And so they start telling one story over here from Crystal's point of view, and Crystal has some camera footage that backs this up that includes audio. A guy who owns a different Bricks and Minifig location in a different city in Oregon shows up and says that she is in her contract with Bricks and Minifig corporate has been canceled and she needs to leave the building right now. She is being escorted out of the building, and if she doesn't leave, the cops will be called. And that is on video that you can watch and in one of Reckless Ben's videos. Okay. So now she's kicked out of her own store, and you can hear her on audio say, I have this massive contract with this guy and I need to do an inventory of the stuff so I can settle up with him. And they say the other guy who shows up, his name is Brandon, says that will be taken care of. You need to leave the store now, and literally kicks her out of the store. Okay. So Brian, who's brought his father's collection in, stops getting payments for the collection, and he goes and says, hey, what's going on with my stuff? And he is asked to leave, and he is no longer, they're refusing to acknowledge that he has a contract and they have things on contract. And so he is getting stonewalled everywhere. So he gets a hold of Reckless Ben. Reckless Ben agrees to help this guy, and Reckless Ben is this guy who has a YouTube channel with 1 million followers, and he decides he's going to do an investigative report. He's going to help this guy recover his money. Reckless Ben takes a copy of the contract and goes to the location, and that's where things really start getting nuts, because they tell him, 1, you can't hand us any paperwork. 2, you don't have a contract. 3, we don't have any of his stuff. 4, if you don't leave now, we're going to call the cops. So they call the cops. He waits for the cops, and he says, great, call the cops because I have a contract saying this is the stuff and I want access to the stuff. The cops refuse to even look at it. There's all these crazy implications. Reckless Ben he's trying to get the stuff back. He is now has the cops called on him for reports that he is carrying heroin, and it just starts getting nuts that he then gets he's pulled over for possession. He gets arrested for stalking. He's released out of jail. He ends up fleeing the country, says he's in Mexico for his own protection. The Bricks and Minifigs corporate office is now suing him and issuing takedown notices, and they're suing him for defamation, saying what he's saying is not true, even though there's video of it showing that it's actually true. And it just starts getting crazy over there. There's implications that because Bricks and Minifigs corporate office is in Utah and they're good with the Mormon church, that the Mormons are actually helping them, because the police officers in this town in Oregon are heavily Mormon at this station, so that the Mormon police officers are helping. And so who knows if that's true or not. And then you get the fact that the Bricks and Minifigs people finally get so much pressure that they finally come out and they say, you know what? We're taking the franchise away from this Brandon guy and his partner who owned it. So we're shutting down the franchise. Brian can have every Lego set that he wants that's in the store, have it all back. And the amount of Legos still in the store turns out to be like $5,000. That's where CoffeeZilla gets involved. And now CoffeeZilla is trying to say, who's telling the truth here? What the heck is going on? Somebody's lying someplace, right? Mm-hmm. The corporate offices are now throwing Crystal, the former owner, and Brandon, the current owner, throwing both of them under the bus left and right. Crystal shows up with receipts and contracts. Corporate says that they were never allowed to do consignment ever. Crystal shows, here's my franchise agreement. It says we can do consignments right here in this paragraph. This is the one I signed and they countersigned. Corporate says there was never that much stuff in the store when they did the inventory because they took pictures of it all. We get an anonymous store employee from a different store who doesn't work there anymore, says on or about that time, a U-Haul truck showed up at our location and we had to unload for 4 hours to unload all the Star Wars Lego sets in this truck. Corporate says there was never a U-Haul truck that day that was there. CoffeeZilla gets all these pictures from cameras and every other thing that were taken that night with timestamps, including the pictures that were sent to him by the Bricks and Minifigs corporate office. And in one of the pictures, you can see a U-Haul truck parked outside in the parking lot. At the same time, he does an analysis of it and finds that all the claims of $200,000 are completely overblown, and maybe it's 80 to 100. This whole thing keeps going on, and the most recent update is now the corporate office is suing Brian, who brought his dad's collection, and suing him and Reckless Ben for $1.3 million for reckless defamation of their franchise. The whole thing is nuts. Oh, and Crystal and her husband are also suing. They're suing Bricks and Minifigs for defamation for throwing her under the bus, saying, I have contracts, I have video, I have audio. Everything you've done to me is reckless defamation, including stealing, basically, it looks like stealing the franchise away from her. The whole thing is nuts, John. Whole thing is nuts. And it just keeps going.
Wild.
There's going to be a Netflix documentary of this.
And it's going to be so good.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get some sort of answers in the long run. But this is the nightmare scenario of selling your collection, right? Like, this is what every person dreads in the thought of unloading the things that they cherish.
Yeah. I mean, they could have made this so easy, right? This is like other people who have stuck to their guns and just gone down in flames in the past. They could have just said, corporate could have come out and said, you know what? We don't have great records of any of this, so we're just going to pay Brian. This is the value we can agree on. We're going to pay him. We're going to call it a day. We wish this hadn't happened, but we're really sorry, and we're just going to move on with their life. They're a big enough corporation that they could have just said, Brian, the value from the original spreadsheets, we looked up all the values of everything that's out there, and we think it's somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000. Would you take $80,000 in cash right now? And just call it a day.
And the wild thing is, what are they going to do? Let's say they did steal these sets. What are they going to do with them? Because now they are a hot commodity. Are they going to go to the Lego black market? I'm sure there is one, and sell these? Like, is that the whole entire impetus of doing this and stealing this? It's ridiculous.
Well, so the implication right now from the CoffeeZilla video is, did this other store franchise owner, Brandon, did he steal all the sets? And then after he took them all out, then he took the inventory pictures and sent them to corporate. And corporate is going by, our guy Brandon told us this thing. But what if Brandon's been lying the whole time?
Yeah.
And nobody knows. I mean, nobody knows yet. Maybe it comes out, maybe it doesn't. Maybe corporate's been right this whole time and just trying to stick by their guy Brandon, he's also a loyal customer, but they've been lied to the whole time too.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you want a place to get your Lego fix that is above the board when it comes to ethics, Red Raccoon is your location. And as you go into Red Raccoon to check out those Lego minifigs, there's also a little spot that you should check out called the New Hotness. Jamie, any ideas on what's on the New Hotness? I know one thing that was on the New Hotness, but I think I might have bought the only one.
Well, I think that the single biggest release on the New Hotness is the new Ravenloft book.
Ugh. I've been trying to get through it slowly but surely, and it's so good.
Yeah, the alt cover, if it didn't run out today, it's going to run out soon, right? Because the alt cover is so cool. And this Ravenloft has been the best-selling D&D book in a while because everybody likes their spooky stuff.
Everyone.
So that's the big release. We have the regular cover available. The alt covers, we don't think we are going to be able to get anymore. Usually that's one print run, one and done, and we can't get more.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the big release that's out there. There's a bunch of new smaller games that are out there. Some really fun stuff like Zeus on the Loose, which is it's not from All Play, it's from Happy Camper Games. Super fun. And that's another one of those like 4-inch by 4-inch games where like it's cards and stuff of how much fun and excitement can you pack in those little boxes. And
throw it in a bag, throw it in a purse, throw it in a backpack, take it with you and get it on a table when you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
One of the games that is not one of that I recently picked up that I was interested in was Deep Regrets.
Yeah, and Deeper Regrets, the new one. That's the Kickstarter version.
Correct. So from what I see, if you're a fan of the video game Dredge, where you are a sailor that goes out in the night, sometimes in the night, and the things that you catch in your fishing boat could be Cthulhian-esque horrors, this is the board game for you if you enjoy that. Deep Regrets seems like it's a lot of fun. I've not gotten it on the table yet. I did get the Kickstarter version, but The dice
Yeah.
are pretty, artwork's amazing, and it seems like from the gameplay sense, like it's gonna have very firm mechanics that are gonna be a lot of fun to play. And I'm really excited. The next podcast, I hope to be able to talk about what it plays like.
Well, the regrets mechanic is similar to the going crazy mechanic out of like a Call of Cthulhu style game, right?
Very much so.
But the deeper that you go, the more likely it is to get the big score or the really bad regrets as well. So the base game came out a couple of years ago and we got it like 16 copies and sold it out instantly and couldn't get any more. The new Kickstarter includes the new expansion called Deeper Regrets. And now you can choose to go and fish in the rivers or like locks or the places like that, and all new horrific things that you could find when you're fishing, right? So yeah, that one is a cool one that's there. One that just showed up today that is not even on the shelf as we talk about this is there's a new expansion for Pirate Borg that is out there. So
Really?
Pirate Borg came out a few years ago. It's one of the Mork Borg clones, right? It's an easy to play pirate sailing game inspired by Pirates of the Caribbean. And this new one that we just got in today is a thicker hardbound book that adds a bunch of new mechanics for running villages and things of that nature. Like, and then 2 new zine style campaigns that you can choose to run with it as well.
Fun.
Yeah, and then there's a part of Free RPG Day, which is coming up in a couple weeks on June 27th. There's an actual Free RPG Day Pirate Borg expansion that you can grab as well on just the town of Tortuga. Yeah, so that's a new one that just arrived today. Just an absolute massive amount of restocks that are hitting the store right now. And then, of course, we're going to find out what's new and coming out with Origins starts in 2 days.
Fingers crossed you come back with all sorts of fun news for us, Jamie. But while you're gone, are there any reason people might want to be coming by the store?
Yeah, 100%, John.
Give me some.
Well, all right. This weekend is the newest Magic set, which is Marvel Superheroes.
Ooh,
It's another one of the Universes Beyond series, which is where they go to their licensing things, right? So we've had Doctor Who, we've had 40K, we had Final Fantasy, we had Lord of the Rings, Walking Dead, Stranger Things, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Spider-Man, and now this set is Marvel Superheroes. And originally, a lot of people were giving it a hard time, like this set might be not great, right? Because like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set, a lot of people bagged on it pretty hard when it was first coming out. And then it turns out it had really good cards in it. And people came in wanting those really good cards. And oh, by the way, the artwork is great. And this Marvel Superhero set, I don't know how this is going to play out because people were really starting to look at the cards and going, hey, these are really powerful Magic cards. And there's a lot of detractors that are out there saying, I don't want my Magic hand. If I got a hand of cards and I've got Gandalf and the orcs and Jace from the original Magic and Leonardo and Thor all on the battlefield. At the same time, these sets, not all of them, but some of these sets are often the best selling sets Magic has ever produced, right? The Lord of the Rings was the best-selling Magic set ever until Final Fantasy came out, which became the best-selling Magic set ever. There's a lot of complaints out there, and some of them are valid about mixing and matching all the IPs that are out there. I don't think that the Marvel Superheroes is going to be the best set ever, but the next set after this is The Hobbit.
Yeah, it's you do it, yeah. Here's one of my theories, Jamie. The people that are upset that they can't keep their world separate are the same people that had too many toys as children growing up. Because you know what? When you didn't have a lot of toys growing up, you did with what you could have. So you know what? Sometimes Leonardo did have to fight the Rock Lords, okay? You didn't have the different worlds that you could choose to play in. You just got together what you got. So I'm a person that definitely wants to see Optimus Prime somehow on the Enterprise firing some sort of like death laser at Luke Skywalker in my Magic the Gathering game. Do I even play Magic? No, but that's what I want to see in it.
Yeah. Well, and that's the big thing for this weekend, right? Is that set. We're still a few weeks out from the next Pokemon set. Pitch Black. That's coming. But I think after that, it's this weekend is Magic, and next weekend on the 27th is Free RPG Day. John, I'm running a game.
What are you running, Jamie? Another zombie side?
No, John, I'm running a game that's near and dear to John's heart.
What are you doing?
What if Cities of Mist had a fantasy setting, John?
Legends of Mist.
Of the Mist.
Yes, I did not know you're running that.
Well, I just told Ariel, I said, what has nobody else taken yet? I can run something at 1 o'clock, right? And so I'm running Legends of the Mist at 1 o'clock on Free RPG Day.
You might have one more person to join you at 1 o'clock then.
Yeah, I know we've got somebody running Dungeons and Kittens, which is a new supposed to be a children's friendly RPG a la Magical Kitty Save the Day. We've got Pathfinder Starfinder. We've got Call of Cthulhu. Brian might be coming in and running something from, I don't know if it's Vaesen or Vaesen. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he's going to run something from that world. He said he's got a scenario that involves dinosaurs, right?
Okay.
So I think he might be running that one. He was just checking his schedule. So Free RPG Day is always a good time. It's always kind of a little chaotic, but a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to it because normally Free RPG Day happens when I have to be at Origins because I'm in the Gamma work. This year, it's the week after Origins.
Finally, the Venn diagram diverges.
Yeah.
Jamie
and I
is
get to
free.
actually play RPGs during Free RPG Day. This is crazy
fantastic.
talk.
I don't know what this world is like. That's why we should end this episode so I can get a grip on reality again. But before we go, Jamie, we have one of our audience's favorite segments, and that's really learning what geeky stuff are we doing right now. What have you got, Jamie?
I am almost done with my second go through of Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 8, A Parade of Horribles.
Got it.
Still enjoying it. It's different than the other books. It's very clearly the setup for books 9 part 1 and 9 part 2, which Matt Dinneman has been talking about. I am still enjoying it a lot. And the last podcast, you said it's very much like, it's a lot of like the wacky racers and stuff going on. And I agree with that. And I enjoyed that whole segment of floor 10 a lot. Floor 11's a little weird, but some serious twists going on as the AI is completely losing its stuff, right? So I'm just on floor 11 again, and with a 6-hour drive to Columbus, Ohio coming up, I'm pretty sure I'll have finished it.
That's fantastic.
But for the cruise, I picked up a novella that I had not read from the Dresden Files.
New content for Jamie? How lucky are you?
I know, right? So I picked that up. That was a lot of fun. It's a quick read because it's just a novella. But it's basically Harry ends up having to work with Max Valorius again, who is the attorney that he hired in the previous book. He hooks up with Max and has to work with him to do a favor for John Marcone, who is the Baron Lord Gangster of Chicago, because John Marcone saved Harry's life, and now Harry owes him a favor and has to pay him back. And so it's a fun little, I don't know. I read the whole thing in 3 days on a cruise ship. So it's a fast read. It would be a fast listen. I don't know if I would recommend if you wait for all it to be compiled, like the other novellas have all been compiled into a single thing that you can buy on Audible, but it was fun. Or if you got a credit, you don't know what to do with it on Audible, or if you can get it free at the library, it's probably no more than 5 or 6 hours to listen to the whole thing. And then I finished Fallout Season 2. I really enjoyed that a lot. Absolutely gorgeous, amazing cinematography. Love the storyline. The acting's great. Still just a fan of that. Yeah. How about you? What do you do? What are you doing?
On my end, thanks to the recommendation of Katie, I finished another book by Naomi Novik called Uprooted. Naomi Novik, had wrote a book that I had read earlier along with Katie called Spinning Silver, which was kind of a switch up on some of the Rumpelstiltskin lore that we might know while adding in some Jewish themes to it. It was very well developed for a fantasy novel. Uprooted is in a different universe, or at least not connected from what we could see. Very much about what if nature became corrupted and magic is being used to try and keep that corruption back, but finally someone is standing up and saying, where does this corruption come in the first place? And so, lovely book, really great. It's slightly romantic-y, but actually a lot more just about culture and going from something very small and becoming larger than you ever dreamed of. And it's a
Were
really
there any
great way.
throbbing things? Because it was the throbbing things that always threw me off.
There was like one throbbing thing, like 2/3 of the way into the book, but it's not a lot of time in the throbbing things. We're outside of throbbing things 99% of the time, I would feel. So
Okay.
but I'm also at the same time reading a book series that you suggested. I'm in book 2 of The Deeds of Paxenarian, which it's been really interesting to get into. I had a hard time because I don't know if you've ever listened to the audiobook, Jamie. I know you read this when you were younger. The speaker of the audiobook does something with elf voices that I do not like. It is very sing-songy, and it is just it's hard to take it seriously, and I am happy that I am past a process where I don't have to listen to those races anymore for at least a short amount of time. But the story itself is fascinating. It's a weird mixture of like low magic fantasy Lord of the Rings mixed with a lot more of like military maneuvers and understanding combat at that time period. That first book was a lot of learning the mundane world so that we could explore more of the fantastical world, it feels. So
Yeah.
very excited about it.
There was some really cool stuff in there, even about her learning to march in formation and all
Exactly.
the minutia, right? And I appreciated that. I have listened to the audiobook, so I know 100% what you're talking about. But I really, after I finished basic training, right? Not everybody knows I was in the National Guard. I did 4 years in the National Guard, but there's a lot of stuff in that book that really pairs exactly with my experiences of having been and gone through basic training. And a lot of that focus is basically a lot of the crazy stuff you've seen in movies is shaving the heads and stuff like that, is to break everybody down to a level through exhaustion, through uniformity, through everything else, so they can rebuild people up into a team in a way that the team functionally works. And that is 100% what a lot of that stuff in that first book was doing. And I'm really interested to wait till you finish the second book because things are going to happen. And I want to, I don't want to spoil anything, but I really want you to, because now that you've got through the kind of the cool parts of the mundane and being a mercenary and stuff like that, now things are really going to start spinning and wacky hijinks are going to ensue at this point. And I'm so excited to see what you think.
I will text you the minute that I'm done. But when it comes to TV and movies right now, first of all, I got to see He-Man. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see it yet, Jamie. I think you said no last time we talked. Fantastic film. Like, better than I expected. It's not going to break any box office, which is really sad. The 3 post-credit trailers really left a lot of room that I wanted to explore more. Surprisingly violent. I never in my mind thought about the power sword of He-Man actually stabbing a person. I had to come to grips with that pretty fast in this movie, repetitively. There were some elements where I felt like they were trying to almost make this the Barbie movie for men in a way, to talk about masculinity, toxic masculinity, where does power really come from? But you could tell that they might have started down that path and then said, whoa, we want this to make money, and took massive steps back from it. But there's still hints of it there. But my favorite,
I think the He-Man cartoon was a lot like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, where like Michelangelo in the cartoon has a katana, right? And then ultimately kicks somebody. The only time that the blade ever got used was against something robotic. But
or
anybody else, he would punch somebody or kick somebody, even though he's wielding dual katanas. But in the comic book, they were bloody as all get out.
Yes, very much so. Eastman and Lard did it. And He-Man, the comic books that came with the toys originally, were much more like Conan the Barbarian than what we ended up with the TV show. But something that I am kind of sad about is that I think that there was a real opportunity to carry on something that I once heard Peter Cullen, who is the voice of Optimus Prime, say. And when he was trying to get in the role of Optimus...
roll out?
Excuse me?
Autobots roll out?
That's the guy. When
I
he
didn't know if that's what he
was...
said. I didn't know if that's what he said that you remembered.
No. This was actually Peter Cullen who was doing research, trying to get inside the head of who Optimus Prime was, which I love him because it was the 80s cartoons. He literally just could have made a voice and he would have been fine, but he was really trying to understand this character. And he went to his brother who was in the military. And he's like, hey, I'm supposed to be playing this character that's like a leader of this resistance army. What can you tell me? Like, what should I do with this? How can I make this for kids? And his brother told him, make the character so strong that he can be kind. And that really set the tone for who Optimus Prime was and the way that he adds inflection to his voice and how he approaches his subordinates. Optimus Prime could have been much more of a military leader, but because of the approach Peter Cullen took, it made that character compassionate. It made that character strong, but not in a sense of aggression, but in confidence. And I think I would have loved to see more of that inside of the He-Man movie. They kind of still did the punch harder move, which we see in everything. And some shows do it great. Some shows do it okay. That's where I think He-Man falls into. But I think it would have been really beautiful to almost parry into what we used to see in the cartoons, which was, I'm not going to use my sword on you. I don't have to. I'm strong enough that I don't have to follow that. I can do more than, and that's what strength is. It's not using it for overwhelming force. It's using only what is necessary. And I'm sad that we did not get to see that more in He-Man. However, one hero that I have absolutely loved watching lately just started his 3rd season with that same kind of thought, and that is My Adventures with Superman, which is an animated show on HBO. It is Superman is voiced by Jack Quaid, who you might know from The Boys or Lower Decks, or as a gelatinous cube in the new God of War video game, which if you have not seen the mocap for that, please go out and check it. It's just Jack Quaid in a square, trying to do things as a square. It's wild. But My Adventures with Superman has been such a great integration into the mythos of Superman. It's a very updated take. He is best friends with Jimmy when he starts the show. They meet Lois very quickly as they're all interns, and Lois is like a 2nd-year intern. And they progress fast through lore, through story. They give him a magical transformation kind of, but it really does bring more of that heart that we kind of got to see in the James Gunn Superman that I think so many people love to see. The 3rd season has already started out strong, and we know it's going to introduce a character named Jessica Cruz, who eventually will join the Green Lantern Corps and start a spin-off show, My Adventures with Green Lantern. And we'll get to see this universe through another pair of eyes. So I've been really excited about that. I'm glad the 3rd season is starting, and I hope you give it a shot.
So are you up to date on the most recent Supergirl trailer?
No, I want to see that movie, and I have come to a point in my life when I know I'm going to do something, I stopped watching information about it. I want to be surprised. That's how it was. That's how it is right now with the new Onimusha game. I'm playing the new 007 James Bond game. I think I talked about that in the last episode. As soon as I knew I was going to play it, I didn't want to watch anything more about it. But go
I've seen
ahead.
no trailers for that game. I've seen the box art, and that's all I've seen.
Jamie, it is a Game of the Year contender. It's not the best game, but if you've been missing Uncharted, get into 007. But anyways, the new Supergirl trailer.
Fidget with things, and so I'm fidgeting with little bricks here. You know, I can't just sit here.
Of course not.
Game of the Year contender. That good, huh? I mean, you know, I love Uncharted. I have all the Uncharted stuff.
This is going to be very Uncharted coded for you. I think you're going to enjoy it, Jimmy. But the new Supergirl trailer, what were you saying?
Well, so they showed off more of Jason Momoa as Lobo.
Yes.
And I was reading an interview today that they asked Jason Momoa if there was going to be a standalone movie. And what he said is, I have told them I will absolutely do it, but only if it's going to be rated R. I will appear in other people's movies if they want me to. I will do whatever they want me to do for that. But if there's going to be a standalone Lobo movie, I will only do it if it's rated R, because he thinks that that's what that character is, right? And we just saw the success multiple times of a rated R Deadpool movie. And I think
I just watched He-Man stab a guy. I think there's room for this.
Well, and I think the Batman was with Edward, what's his face? Not Edward. Edward
now all
Cullen.
I can think is
Edward Cullen's what I was going to say.
Edward Cullen is the character name for Richard Patterson. Robert Patterson. There we go.
Robert Patterson from Twilight is Edward Cullen. I think that was a rated R, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So DC has done rated R stuff. I mean, heck, if Harley and Ivy on HBO, that cartoon is not rated R, it probably should be.
Yeah.
I've never checked it though.
So an interesting story about the Lobo connection to Supergirl is that the new movie was based on a story written called Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
Right.
And it was very much, the story was written as her kind of adventuring away from Earth because that's not where she grew up. She wasn't like Clark where she was a baby. She came as a teenager. And so originally when the author of that story was writing it out, it was not a Supergirl story. It was going to be a Lobo story. This was supposed to be Lobo, like in the universe, feeling very listless, drinking all the time, getting into fights all the time. And Supergirl was supposed to be a side character that was kind of like the angel on the shoulder, the morality of it all. And as they were talking through the story and its development, someone finally said, you know what, this fits Supergirl more than it really fits Lobo, because Lobo's not looking to change. Supergirl has a meaning to change. And so they switched the whole entire story, wrote it that way. And so the author is just thrilled that the story he originally made for Lobo that became Supergirl is becoming a movie about Supergirl, which is introducing Lobo to the DC universe, cinematic universe. And I really just love that synergy that's going on.
I did not know that was how the background came. I knew about it was from that story, but it's pretty, I'm looking forward to it. There's a new trailer that dropped for Spider-Man, Brand New Day coming out. This is going to be a great summer of movies. The new Stephen King movie, The Disclosure, not Stephen King,
Day?
Steven Spielberg.
I was about to correct you. Yep, you got there.
Yeah, looks amazing. I can't wait to see that. You know, we just finished with Mandalorian Grogu. I mean, there's just a lot of movies to look forward to for the rest of just 2026. I'm kind of stoked. I haven't felt excited about this many movies in 1 year for a while.
Agreed.
And I still have to go see Superman too.
Wait, what?
I'm sorry, He-Man. I have to go see He-Man.
I was like, you haven't seen Stop the Podcast. Okay. But no, also we've been seeing some footage, or some stills from the sequel to the Superman film where Lex Luthor is in practical Lex Luthor armor, and it looks real good. So we're going to go ahead and end this podcast so you can get on your phones now and check out those stills. Thank you so much for listening as always. And of course, keep playing.
Bye, guys.